In this video we're going to make a more complicated type of cog, and it's a lovely excuse for me to show you or refresh you on some techniques and just show you how to use some new ones. So we're going to make this sort of very steelish looking cog with a bit of tooling in it so it feels like it's crafted, and then also put a background at the back of it. And we're going to start in the Illustrator, of course. I'm going to create a new document. This time again I'm going to go to pixels and I'm going to create 600 by 400. I just want a sort of equal document, so something like exact pixels, because I want to work with the artboard rulers. So I'm just going to refresh everything in my workspace. I'm going to reset essentials. I like my tools that way. I'm going to grab the properties and get my rulers up. Pull out a couple of guides and then just align those guides. Show options on the align panel. I'm going to align them to the artboard, so vertically and horizontally. Then in the layers, make it a guide layer and lock it. So let's put that over there. Now what I need are a bunch of circles, and I need them to be ever decreasing, so it's kind of the opposite method of the simple cog. I'm going to make a big circle. And then I'm going to make the next one smaller. So one way I can do it, just to take a different route, is just simply to copy it and then paste in place. And we can make it smaller. Okay, first of all I'll just put a colour in it. Let's just go back. Illustrator has taken to switching off the control bar. You can always just switch it back on again. So let's just put a colour in there. So I'm going to take that circle, copy it, paste in front, and then just shrink it down. Just change the colour so you can see it. So I want something like that for the outside. And then I'm going to do the same again. Paste in front. Make the next one about that size. And once again, paste in front. So I'm just making ever decreasing circles. Let's change that colour again. So I have two circles that are going to relate to each other there, and two circles that relate to each other here. And by that, what I mean is we're going to use the Pathfinder tool to cut into these circles. The reason is because we want to make a more complex scenario for our cogs. So we're making an outer circle and an inner circle. And then we're going to make some shapes and join them all up. So we're going to take the first two circles, and in the Pathfinder, okay, let's just pull the whole Pathfinder out. So I'm going to use the minus front command. So that's removed this circle from this circle, and then I'm going to take these two, so you can just rubber band around them and do exactly the same, minus front. So we've got two starting points. So next I'm going to draw a rectangle, and again you might want to keep the story. Remember what I suggested last time was that you create yourself a layer for the story, and and you can always make just a copy of everything you're doing. So let's just call this the journey. And so therefore what I could be doing along the way is making a copy of that, putting it into the journey, and then just move that even onto another artboard, so you're actually telling the story as you go along. That is going to go into this one, and then every time I do something to this, I can make another copy, move it in place, and then put it into the journey. So I could do that, but I'm going to turn mine off. I'm just going to delete my journey so you only see what I'm doing. I'm going to make a rectangle, and that rectangle is going to be the intersections. So we don't want many of them. What I do want is I want it to sit in place here. Okay, so let's just make it a bit bigger. And just to make sure it's in place, remember what I can do is I can align it. I can align it to the artboard. Get my align tools up again. We're still aligned to the artboard until I change it. So I can horizontally align it to the artboard. Obviously if I go vertical, it's going to stick it right in the middle, so that's not much use. I need to just maneuver it into place. Now I'm going to use the old trick that we used last year. I'm going to use pivot point in order to rotate this into place around the circle. So select your rectangle, select the rotate tool, and then you hold option and click at the intersection to create another section. You need to decide how many you want. So I'm actually quite happy with 60 degrees. I'm going to make a copy of that, and then I'm going to Command D. So long as it divides into 360, so 60 into 360, we'll go 6 times, will give me 6 arms. You don't want, remember, you don't want too many. You actually need more cogs than intersections to make this work. Now I'm going to draw the teeth. So I'm going to draw another little rectangle. And this time I'm going to use a warping effect. So I'm going to look at warp arc. We switch preview on. We don't want it to arc quite in that way. What we want is to bend it something like that, so it comes out, sticks out, and it's got a bigger platform than the edge of the tooth. So you want something like I've said about -6, just to make it subtle. If you obviously you can change that, and don't change any of the distortion. We don't want to create any distortion in this. After you've done that, you might want to round the corners. You could either take your corner NURBS and do that, or you can also say stylize round corners, although I've had some strange effects with it. Let's just reduce this. Not too happy with that. I don't know why it's distorting. We'll just go for the corner NURBS like that. And finally, I'm going to put that into position. You decide how many teeth you want and how big those teeth are going to be. And we're going to use the same thing again. I'm going to just align it, and then I'm going to use my pivot point rotate. Before I do that, it's still effectively got the filter on it, so you can see the original shape there. And what I need to do is expand that, and so I'm going to say object expand appearance. That's just going to turn it back into a normal shape. Perhaps if you apply round corners at this stage, that might be another variation you could do. I'm going to take that tooth and allow it to pivot. And the reason that I need to expand it is we're going to use the Pathfinder, and we're just going to merge all of these shapes together. And Illustrator just won't be able to do that, won't be able to cope with it if it's not been expanded. So I'm going to use my rotate tool, and I'm going to pivot. And again, you need to think about how many teeth you want. That would be far too little teeth. So I'm going to say every 20 degrees, which also divides into 360, and then just Command D it all the way around. Then I can take this shape and I can merge them together, use the Unite tool to merge the whole thing into one shape. Move on to the next video if you want to add a little bit more depth and 3D dimension into your drawing. Plus we're also going to add the steel effect.